and hurt our workers in the process. The phones have been ringing off the hook to make deals, and these countries wisely heeded President Trump's warning not to retaliate, and as a result, they were rewarded with a 90-day pause and substantially lower reciprocal tariff rates during this period so potential solutions can be achieved. Past presidents just willingly accepted the failed status quo on trade that ripped off our workers and our companies, but that's not who this president is. He creates his own leverage and negotiates deals better than anyone else who has sat in the Oval Office before him. And that process is currently underway. On another matter, the deadline for registration under the Alien Registration Act is today. All foreign nationals present in the United States longer than 30 days must register with the federal government. Failure to comply with this is a crime, punishable by fines, imprisonment, or both. As President Trump and Secretary Noem have both said, if you register and you leave now, you choose to self-deport, you may have the opportunity to return later legally. But if not, you will be arrested, fined, deported, never to return to our country again. The Trump administration will continue to enforce our nation's immigration laws. We will not pick and choose which laws to enforce. We must know who is in our country for the safety and the security of our homeland and for all American citizens. I also have a note from the First Lady to share with you on this Friday. On Tuesday this week, First Lady Melania Trump celebrated the advancement of the Take It Down Act in the House Energy and Commerce Committee. The important legislation passed the committee with bipartisan support. And as you may remember, the president talked about this bill in his address to a joint session of Congress last month. The First Lady remains dedicated to her championing child well-being, ensuring that every young person can thrive, and of course, championing her Be Best agenda. We urge Congress to swiftly pass this important legislation. Here in our new media seat today, we have Jordan Berman. Jordan is a social media content creator and influencer and a lawyer who grew up following breaking down the news from a neutral perspective. Jordan is the host of her own podcast called
Excuse me, the shorts are playing in. I'm looking at, you guys see what's happening here. It was a clear double top. I was looking for the breakback under the 88, and that target, the TP1 target, is going to be 18,345 here on the CFD chart. And so we kind of just look at this. That's, if price is at 500, that's at 350. Still got another about 150 points to go for this for the full move, and so that's probably where I'm going to leave one position open, just all the way down to that TP1. But I will be closing partials along the way. As you guys have seen, I've already closed 3 of the contracts. I still have 3 open. They're all in break even, so I have my stop profits in place, and I'll probably be looking to actually secure another one of the positions now and just leave 2 contracts open and then just let these things ride. Another probably, once we get down to the 600 right here, I'll close another one of the contracts and then let the last contract ride as I trail my stops. Trailing, very crucial when you're trading with a trailing equity drawdown. You want to make sure that you're trailing your stop losses. So even in case of a retracement, it's not going to work against your daily equity.
Our elections. This is critical to improving the integrity of our elections and also the trust that American citizens need to have in our electoral process. So the president supports this bill, and that is a myth that has been proven wrong by the text of this bill. And I believe some of the co-sponsors of the bill have been very vocal in addressing that. And certainly I myself, as a married woman, would not stand before this podium if the president did not support such a common sense measure.
Thank you. For my next question, I actually want to give a voice to the American people.
Yo, good for her. She said she's like, yo, I got my own principles, and I wouldn't be out here saying all this stuff if the president did something that was heinous towards women. Dude, I love this. I love Karoline Leavitt. And I really hope that she kind of sticks to this. I hope she doesn't get corrupted by what this job does to you, because everybody who's been in this position, McEnany, everybody just gets completely destroyed here. And so I wish him the best for Karoline Leavitt, for real.
She is from Oregon, and she asked, what, if any, plans do you have, the administration, for the money that will be generated by tariffs imposed on foreign goods? How will the administration facilitate the development of American industries when many critical components, labor, parts, etc., are much cheaper and more feasible from foreign entities?
It's a great question from your listener, and I want to thank her for submitting it to you to ask. That's the part of the new media seat is so that everyday Americans across the country have a voice in this room. So thank you again for being here. Thanks for the question. The president's point about his trade and tariff agenda is to bolster our manufacturing industries here in our country, to bring down the cost of living here in our country, and to ensure that we are maintaining critical supply chains here in America. We cannot be dependent on countries like China if we want this country to be strong and wealthy. So the president wants to restore wealth to America by shoring up these jobs here at home, which will result in good paying jobs and higher wages for the American public. And so Americans should trust in that process. He effectively implemented tariffs in his first term while driving down the cost of living in this country. And that's what he's focused on doing again. Thank you.
As a follow-up question, could I just ask, are there any specific ideas that the administration has as to what that revenue, specific tariff revenue
Sure.
will be used for?
Yes, to the heart of your question, the president has spoke about the trillions of dollars that he expects in revenue from tariffs and how we can use it to pay down our debt and to ensure that we are no longer faced with a crippling national debt in the trillions that is going to bankrupt our nation for future generations. So that money coming back home will make America in the green rather than in the red, which any small business owner across the country, I believe, can appreciate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kelly.
Tomorrow, there will be negotiations between the United States and Iran in
right.
Oman. What are the president's chief goals for that? And is he satisfied with how Iran is responding to this? They don't want direct face-to-face negotiations, instead sort of old school shuttle diplomacy where they're in separate rooms and messages are passed back and forth. So is the president comfortable with the arrangement there, and what is the chief objective?
Well, I have spoken to both the president and also his national security team who will be engaged in these discussions. These will be direct talks with the Iranians, and I want to make that very clear. I also spoke to the president just last night about his goal when it comes to Iran, and he has reiterated repeatedly to all of you publicly and also privately to his team here at the White House, his ultimate goal and the ultimate objective is to ensure that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. The president believes in diplomacy, direct talks, talking directly in the same room in order to achieve that goal. But he's made it very clear to the Iranians, and his national security team will as well, that all options are on the table, and Iran has a choice to make. You can agree to President Trump's demand, or there will be all hell to pay. And that's how the president feels. He feels very strongly about it.
And can you update us on Mr. Witkoff in Russia and what's happening with direct communications with Vladimir Putin?
I can confirm that Mr. Witkoff is in Russia to have direct communications with the Kremlin and with Vladimir Putin. This is another step in the negotiating process towards a ceasefire and an ultimate peace deal in Russia and Ukraine. As these negotiations are ongoing, I obviously will not get ahead of the president or his team, but I think the president has been quite clear that he's been continually frustrated with both sides of this conflict, and he wants to see this fighting end. He wants the war to end. We believe we have leverage in negotiating a deal. To a peace deal, and we're going to use that leverage. And the president is determined to see this through.
Thanks, Karoline. President Trump has said China wants to make a deal on tariffs. The president says he has a great relationship with Chinese President Xi. He's willing to speak with him directly. Why doesn't the president just pick up the phone and get this ball going?
All of the things the president just said are true. The president, as I said from the podium just a few days ago when I was up here, would be gracious if China intends to make a deal with the United States. If China continues to retaliate, it's not good for China. The United States of America is the strongest, best economy in the world, as evidenced by the more than 75 countries who have called the administration immediately to cut good deals. So the president wants to do what's right for the American people. He wants to see fair trade practices around the globe, and that's his intention and his goal.
So is he waiting for China to make the first move here?
I'm not going to comment on communications that are happening or may not be happening, or either way. We'll leave it to our national security team to get these discussions underway. And as always, in the effort of transparency, we will provide updates moving forward. But the president has made it very clear he's open to a deal with China.
Why is he optimistic that China's going to make a deal or wants to make a deal? If they're not talking, where's that optimism?
He's optimistic.
Because we have the cards in our hands. We hold the cards.
With us to isolate China in a trade war if we're treating friend and foe alike.
You'll have to talk to our allies who are reaching out to us. The phones are ringing off of the hooks. They've made it very.
So Trump gives a pause on 75 different countries as sort of like a good measure, as sort of like an olive branch. And they're like, oh, we're treating our enemies and our friends the exact same. Clearly, we're not. We just raised 125% tariffs on China, and we just did a 10% across the board and paused for 90 days on everybody else. So clearly, we're not treating everybody the same.
Clear, they need the United States of America. They need our markets. They need our consumer base. You saw Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the Oval Office with the president saying that he was going to bring down all of their monetary tariffs and their non-monetary tariff trade barriers as well. We've heard from South Korea. We've heard from Japan. The president has spoken to Vietnam. We have Italy coming to the White House next week. There's a reason for that, Sean, and it's because they need the United States of America and our business model and our markets to survive. And the president is using that leverage to our advantage. Michael.
Hey, thank you, Caroline. To part what China, Beijing says it will simply ignore any further tariff escalations from the US. Does President Trump see this as China backing down? And as a follow-up to that, what do you say to people like Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary who say, you guys simply haven't tariffed China enough?
Look, the tariff rate on China remains where it was yesterday at the 145% level. The president made it very clear when the United
145 is insane.
and he hopes to make a deal that benefits the American worker and our companies that have been ripped off for far too long. And he's finally taking bold and courageous action to do that. You know, taking on China is, in the terms of trade and tariffs, is something that both Democrats and Republicans alike have spoken about for decades. President Trump is finally doing it.
Caroline, real quick, the president of El Salvador is coming to the White House on Monday. Does President Trump want him to bring Gilmar Abrego Garcia with him?
The Supreme Court made their ruling last night very clear that it's the administration's responsibility to facilitate the return, not to effectuate the return. I believe the Department of Justice just filed another brief in the lower court. I would defer you to that for any updates. But as you mentioned, President Bukele will be here at the White House on Monday to talk about the cooperation that is at an all-time high. And we very much appreciate President Bukele and El Salvador's cooperation and the repatriation of El Salvadorian gang members who the previous administration allowed to infiltrate our country. Sure.
Thank you very much, Caroline. The president spoke quite highly of the great relationship that he has with the Turkish president. We know that the president might be heading off to the Middle East very soon. Is he planning to meet with the Turkish president, either here in the White House or in Turkey? Any plans?
I don't have any details about the president's overseas trip other than to say he was surely going to Saudi Arabia. There could be more countries as part of that trip. We're working on the details. And as I've said repeatedly, we will.
I'm going to be looking to secure some partials here pretty soon. I just did a little bit of rearranging, but looks like we're in pretty good profits here. I'll be looking to get out here pretty soon, just to make sure I don't violate any of the rules. You guys know how it goes.
Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. I'd like to ask you about presidential health and also about tariffs. On presidential health, are there plans for the president's position to come here and take our questions? And also, President Trump repeatedly makes remarks about the former president's health. Is he considering using his executive powers to bring any greater transparency there?
As I have said, the president is undergoing his long scheduled physical. It's a yearly physical that every president receives, and we will provide an update on that by the president's physician as soon as we possibly can.
And it's about the former president and transparency regarding his health. Are there
Well, I can tell you there was certainly a lack of transparency from the former president, from the entire former administration, and frankly, a lot of people in this room when it came to the health and the competence of the former president of the United States, Joe Biden. There was one of the greatest cover-ups and frankly political scandals this nation has ever seen. It's been unraveled in some recent books that are being written by journalists who engaged in that cover-up and scandal, which is quite ironic. But this president is clearly committed to transparency. You in this room see him and hear from him on a daily basis. You in this room know from covering him, it's hard to keep up with him. He is a machine working around the clock every single day. And the physician after today's physical will provide an update on the report in the effort of transparency.
If I could ask about tariffs, there have been big swings this week in the Treasury bond yields. There's a theory that it might be because of China dumping these.
Which is honestly, that's my base theory, is that China's dumping a ton of US bonds, but the bond markets all across the board, every country is actually dumping. I can show you guys a pretty cool chart that Bob Elliott put up today, but bonds are getting completely destroyed.
Leverage, driving up costs for US loans like mortgages. Does the White House have evidence that this is in fact?
All right, that's the drop that I was looking for. I'm going to be closing off 2 of these contracts here, and then I'm just going to leave 2 running while trailing my stops.
The result of Chinese dumping, and if so, is there a message on that?
Not to my knowledge,
That's how to make $600 in 10 minutes.
but I would check in with the Treasury Department on that. I can tell you, I know our Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, is keeping a very close eye on the bond market. He spoke about it at the White House this week, and I know he's keeping his eyes on it day to day. Ed.
Thanks, thank you, Caroline. So the administration, I have an administration.
I can just see Scott Bessent like foaming at the mouth in the White House, trying his best not to trade the bonds and like crash the entire bond market. He's just sitting there, just getting flashbacks of Black Wednesday, being like, all right, the Bank of England was fun, but what if we crashed the Fed? I know he's sitting in there chomping at the bit.
Source was telling me that we're weeks away from the first deal with the country over tariffs. Where is the administration? How soon can we see that? And what country is that?
I won't reveal or get ahead of our trade team as these negotiations are obviously ongoing, but I can tell you very good progress has been made. Jameson Greer was on television this morning and I spoke to him and he confirmed that more than 15 offers are already on the table, which is remarkable in just a mere matter of days. And as I said earlier, we've heard from more than 75 countries around the world. This is a team effort. The president has a team of great.
All right, last thing, I'm trailing my stops just above these last 5-minute candles, so I'm putting them kind of closer to the high. There's a chance that the market just comes back to retrace like a little bit above the 65, kind of closer to 70, and then drop. So I want to make sure I leave enough room between my entry and that correction so that we don't get caught up in that retest and I can still take advantage of the next drop.
Brilliant advisors who have been with him every step of the way, and all of them will be divvying up the workload. And I just want to give the president and his trade team credit for taking this on. This is a massive undertaking. There's no doubt about it. We take it very seriously. The president is determined to renegotiate global trade on behalf of American workers. And again, you've seen people on both sides of the aisles calling for this for years, but I think no other president lacked the courage or
every day I just think to myself, like right now floating, what is that, like $300? This is my daily wage when I was working at the bank. And I'm sitting here in the comfort of my own home, doing exactly what I'd be doing, just feet kicked up. It's crazy. And it's only been like 10 minutes. This is trading, just as a reminder to everybody.
Or maybe the work ethic or the stamina to take on such a task. And I know there were some questions about the president's delayed departure earlier to Walter Reed. I'd like to address it was because he was working on this very issue, so he was running a bit behind this morning.
On the 90-day pause, is what would the president need to see in order to extend that 90-day pause for countries on tariffs?
Well, I think the president addressed this.
Great question. What would the president need to see in order to either extend that 90-day reprieve or draw it back and then get these countries to pay up after the 90 days? Really, really good questions here. Except like, obviously Trump is getting his annual physical. And so everybody's just like, oh, these are the sickest people in the world, bro. These people are sitting there praying that this man, the president of the United States, is sick just so they can have something to say because, now the talk is all about Biden's deteriorating health, etc. You don't want I don't care what side you're on. I never wanted Joe Biden to have any type of ill health. That's your fucking president. That's a look on us. And so it kind of became this whole story of like, oh, why is Trump going to the hospital? It's like, bro, every year for the last century, damn near, White House physicians are conducting the annual presidential physical at Walter Reed. So I'm sitting here like, that's just like the topic that they're trying to latch onto. Besides that, really good questions on China and Iran today.
Yesterday when he said he's hoping that there will be good deals made before the 90 days is up. And we will cut those deals as soon as we possibly can, country by country, tailor-made deals for each and every country as they all propose unique challenges and unique assets to each country, advantages rather. And when that 90-day mark hits, the president will make that decision then.
One more if I could on a different subject. So a bird earlier attacked my colleague, Peter Ducey, doing a live shot at
I'm
the
wondering
White
if
House.
that's why Peter is absent from the seat. Is he doing okay?
He's recovering.
Has anyone checked on him?
He's recovering. Is anyone looking into that incident?
I could check in with GSA to see if anybody here is looking into it. I also understand there was a mouse in the briefing room earlier today, so I'm hoping somebody checked in on that, as I'm hoping it doesn't run up here and distract me. That would be a good way for all of you to distract me, actually. Have a mouse come run up here. So I'll get an answer for you on that, out of respect for our good friend Peter. Jeff.
Why is American consumer confidence so low?
All right, it kind of looks like market's ready to continue back to the upside. So I have my stop set in place. If my stop profits get hit, no worries. I don't know if I'm going to re-enter a trade unless I see something very attractive like a double top. But for now, I think this trade is basically done. If we're fortunate, maybe we get a second leg down of this move, but more than likely we're going to come back up here for a double top, and then we can potentially take yet another short at the double top. So for now, just kind of expect that this break even is going to get hit, and let's just reset for the next trade.
Look, I think there's a great optimism in this economy, great optimism for the American people, a lot of reason for people to feel optimistic. The president is, as I just said, trying to renegotiate the global trade agenda that has ripped off the American people for far too long. As he said, this is going to be a period of transition. He wants consumers to trust in him, and they should trust in him. Look at what he did in his first term. And I just want to reiterate all of the reasons to be confident since you asked, Jeff. For those watching at home, yesterday, the CPI report, inflation declined massively. Consumer prices are dropping for the first time in years. Energy prices are down. In fact, oil prices are down 20% since this president took office. Wholesale prices fell again. There have been trillions of dollars in investments into this country. Every day, the president is signing executive orders to cut regulation, especially when it comes to Environmental Protection Agency, our energy industry. That's going to unleash the economic boom in this country that we saw in the president's first term. So trust in President Trump. He knows what he's doing. This is a proven economic formula.
What is he asking of Americans at this time? He talked about transition costs, transition problems. Is he asking something specific for Americans to do?
No, I think the president is asking for Americans trust in Trump, as I just said, trust in his economic agenda and formula. It's a proven formula that works. And by the way, clearly the American people do in fact trust him because they did just overwhelmingly elect him to this office. Jennifer.
Is he going, I'm asking about the physical, is he undergoing any general anesthesia? And can you outline any of the other tests that he's doing today?
He is not. He is undergoing quite a few tests, imaging. Again, it's a it's a yearly physical, so there's quite a lot that goes into it to make sure the president is accomplishing all of his goals, and we will provide a readout of that as soon as we can.
You be committed to releasing all of the results, as many of the results as possible.
Of course, yes. The president's physician will do that. I spoke with him this morning. Sure.
Will you guys also consider releasing the president's fitness plan? He actually looks healthier than ever before. Healthier than he did 8 years ago, and I'm sure everybody in this room could agree. Is he working out with Bobby Kennedy? And is he eating less McDonald's?
I can confirm the president is in very good shape, as you see on a near daily basis here. And in that vein, thank God it's Friday. It's been a very long and busy week here at the White House. We will see you all on Monday, and we will release the results of that report as soon as we can. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good day.
What a trip. Okay, well, it doesn't seem like the White House is too concerned about the China escalations here. And so kind of when I'm reading about this, like, especially with the whole, have a great weekend and Trump is at his physical, and there doesn't really seem to be any like emergency flags. It seems like the negotiations between us and the Chinese are actually underway. And so that's very hopeful, in terms of these tariffs, they really can't stand. Like if we had 140% tariffs for a year, we're going to seriously feel the effects. But if this is like a couple weeks or even a month where we're negotiating kind of the plan forward, I'm confident that those negotiations are already underway. And that's why the market's not really panicking, because it seems like Trump has a couple cards up his sleeve. It seems like we are in the dominant position, and the White House does seem to have things under control. And that's just going to lead to more and more optimism as more money starts to flow to the US as opposed to, let's say, China and its satellites. Because right now, for the last 5 to 6 years, even probably since like Trump first took over, we've realized this. There's been a bifurcation in the world between this kind of like unipolar legacy world where America is the unipolar superpower, and then we have this multipolar kind of future where there could be two dominant superpowers and each, we have to play nice, etc. So I think that right now we're noticing that all these alliances that have been formed is to kind of turn their back on the US. All these alliances between China, India, Russia, and some of the, the blacklisted countries, Iran and the rest, they've quickly fallen apart in the face of the danger that is Trump, in the face of the force that is the new United States government. And they're kind of looking around like, okay, when America has a weak president, we can really reshuffle the board here in silence, and nobody's really going to make a fuss about it. Now everything is getting put to the front, to the front page news. Every alliance, every break, every retaliation, every action. And so these governments that have just been either ripping off their own people, or have been playing power games, or have just been looking out for their own interest, but in a very malicious way, they have nowhere to hide anymore. They have to play ball. And then when you have to play ball in a game like this, I'll give you guys an example. Like I do kickboxing, and when I did team sports, for example, you could show up to football practice kind of half-assed, and you know that if you miss a tackle, for example, you still got three guys behind you that'll pick it up. They'll pick up the pace. So like in team sports, there's not as much of this. Like you could really get away with a lot. Okay, and in this globalist world that we've been living in, it really was a team sport where if specific countries were doing things that just like didn't look right, or they were taking advantage of other countries, or they had unfair trade deals, you can kind of hide behind a lot of the noise of the group that you're in. Now, in kickboxing, you can't lie, right? If you tell your coach that you did your conditioning and that you're ready to go, it's going to be pretty evident in like the first 30 seconds whether you're in shape or not. There's really nowhere else to run. It's really just all on you. And if you don't make a good decision and you don't stay true to yourself, it's going to get exposed. So what I think that's happening right now is the rest of the world has kind of taken on an every man for himself strategy. Because even within the European Union, there are some countries that have been fair, very few, but there's some countries that are just completely in charge, like Germany, and ripping us off and having horrible trade relations, like depending on Russia for their key resource, oil, and funding Putin's war. Like some of these countries, they've been hiding under the EU umbrella. Now that this tariff regime is coming out and the America First movement has kind of dominated globalism, we're starting to realize that these countries are not as close friends as they thought they were. They're kind of ditching each other. Like you start a fight at the bar, and then the person you're fighting with is like so fucking 6'4", and he's just a big, there's got a bunch of biker gang guys with tattoos on their eyelids and shit. And I'm sitting there looking at this like, brother, this might be your problem. I don't know what you said or what you did, but why are you dragging me into this? And that's kind of how, Italy and some of these other countries are feeling right now. And then England is trying to negotiate with the US to save themselves from the wrath that the EU is going to have to experience. So long story short, these countries that have been hiding under the guise of these trade treaties, these partnerships, and these kind of global G7 kind of insider groups, they all have to make decisions and justify them to the world with a spotlight right now. And if they want to just do some under the table shit and take advantage of the US, everybody on socials is going to find out. Everyone's going to see the trade agreement in full and realize that we're getting screwed. And that, I think, is the biggest shift that we're seeing, is that the teaming up stuff and kind of hiding behind each other and the support all gone out the window. And so very, very hopeful that these negotiations are going to be fruitful for both the US and for China, because I think it's going to be beneficial for both. In terms of Iran, that's the escalation that, I told you guys, just because I supported Trump during the elections doesn't mean I'm going to let him get a pass whenever some bullshit happens. And starting a war with Iran, a kinetic war with Iran, is not in the US's interest. It might be in Israel's interest, but it sure as hell is not in the US's. And so we really need to think about this clearly, where certain actors in the Congress, by the way, I'm going to take a short here at this 886. Oh, damn, I might have missed the top here. No worries. I'm going to take the short. I'm a little bit late here, but I'm trading the mini, so the drawdown is not going to be too bad. But we're at the 886. I'm expecting a bit of a rejection to the downside here. The market is very aggressive for the bulls, but I just think that this is just one of those no-brainers where we can at least get a rejection down. This is 100 points between the two fibs. So from the 88 back down to the 78 is 100 points. That's a pretty healthy move. That's something that I'd like to take advantage of right here, which is what we're doing. All right, back to the Iran story. Okay, that was quick. Back to the Iran story. So right now there's talks to, I mean, look, the whole battle with Iran, just so you guys understand, if I can break this down 30,000 foot view and very simply, is that there are two dominant sects of the Muslim religion that dominate the Middle East. There's the Sunnis and the Shias. Now, you have on one side, you have Saudi Arabia, and the king of Saudi Arabia is known as the keeper of the mosques. He's basically like the Pope of the Islam tradition, and he's also the protector of the Holy Land, which is Mecca, Medina, in Saudi Arabia. Now, they're directly at odds with the different sect of the religion, which is dominated in Iran. Sorry, guys, I'm looking at this real quick. Beautiful rejection, right on time. So I'm going to close partials here, leave one contract open in break even, and let's see if we get that 100-point move, which will kind of put us down here at the 700. So we got a long way to go, but let's see if we actually have a follow through here on this sell-off. Okay, so you have two competing forces in the Middle East. You have Iran, and then you have Saudi Arabia, which are basically the Sunnis versus the Shias. And Saudi Arabia's, and just to kind of keep this simple for some of you folks, like Saudi Arabia's version of Islam is the one that basically dominates the majority of the Middle East, while Iran's version is typically associated more with like fundamentalism, real conservative traditions, like really just kind of sticking to more, I would say, more aggressive interpretation or more conservative interpretation. And they've always been at odds, right? So Iran's biggest beef in the Middle East, coincidentally enough, is actually not with Israel. It's actually with the other Muslims. But Israel is also a major source of contention in the Middle East, and Iran has kind of taken it on themselves to fight that fight because everybody else has sort of gone tired of fighting this for, since 1948. We've had Egypt and Turkey and Jordan, and every country has basically tried their luck with getting Israel out of there, haven't been successful, mostly due to US support here. Now, Iran has kind of been the last bastion here. Going to war, so kind of to fast forward here, denuclearization was kind of our main policy with Iran, is making sure that this authority over there does not get their hands on a nuclear power. Why is Pakistan allowed to just keep starting problems, and Iran or India and Pakistan allowed to always have problems on their borders? Why didn't we just go in there and just tell Russia what to do, even though we're the more dominant country? It's because of the protection and the safety of a nuclear bomb. So you don't treat nuclear superpowers in the world the same way that you would treat, a non-nuclear superpower. If you and I are going to fight a kinetic war and we're the US, we're going to win that kinetic war. That's for damn sure. Now, if you have a nuke, that's mutually assured destruction. If I bomb you, you're going to bomb the rest of the world, and then that's basically either World War III or Armageddon. And so Iran has been able to be controlled slightly here, like, controlled being a very strong word, but they've been able to kind of like keep the genie in the bottle here. By the way, I'm entering a few more shorts to kind of take advantage of the next drop if there is one. This thing's either going to blow through the highs here. We got a very tight stop. It's either going to blow through the highs here, or this is going to be that shallow retest to get another leg of the sell-off, which is going to kind of take us down here. And so I've entered a few more positions, and then let's see if we actually get this sell-off. All right. So Iran getting a nuclear bomb would basically make it way harder to sanction them, to have these political actions or these geopolitical actions against them, to be able to hold them accountable on the world stage. And so the biggest argument is that Iran has been building their nuclear capabilities to have nuclear power so that the entire country can have energy. Very, very good excuse. But we also don't have access to those nuclear facilities to be able to check if they're building it for military use, or if they're building it for just, energy use. And you can tell based on how much of the refined materials, those radioactive materials, the rate at which they are refined, how much they're refined, should tell us whether this is going to be used for a bomb or this is going to be used for a nuclear energy facility. So right now, this is kind of like some of the Congressman Lindsey Graham's dumbass, who basically said that we should blow Iran into bits. Somebody get Lindsey Graham off of fucking TV before he gets us into World War III, please. Man's a fucking moron, easily as corrupted as, as a broken file on your computer. That's how corrupt this guy is. All right, like more corrupt than a scratch CD. Get him out of there. But some folks are now saying that we should bomb those refineries, we should bomb Iran's nuclear capabilities in order to like basically ensure that even though this is going to escalate a war, and even though this is not, this is not geopolitically legal for us to just bomb their shit and to go into their country, it's the ends justify the means because at least Iran won't have a nuclear weapon. Now, to some degree, I actually agree with that. I don't know of many countries in the Middle East that'll be, happy if Iran gets a nuke. I don't know anybody that'll be happy if Iran gets a nuke, except for, I mean, maybe Yemen, maybe, right? Oh, this ain't looking too hot. I have a little bit of patience here, but say patience pays. So let's see if we get that rejection or not. All right, so yeah, bombing Iran would be the dumbest shit ever. It's basically like dragging us into Armageddon, which, in case you guys need a refresher, Armageddon, no bueno. World War III, no bueno. Mutually assured destruction, no bueno. Hopefully we can resolve this diplomatically. Karoline Leavitt just answered that question where she was asked if we're going to do these backdoor negotiations, like if the negotiations with Iran are going to be in that, I forgot what they called it, closed door negotiations, where basically like you're not going to be in the same room, you'll have your like emissaries and shit like that talk. Trump does not work that way. Okay, and Trump's biggest superpower is the pick up the phone and get it done. And I think that this deal with Russia has actually gotten a bit more complex. I don't think that America really had a grasp because we were being lied to by the EU. I don't think we had a grasp about how powerful Russia was, how dominant they were in the region, and how much land and how much capability they had actually seized, in the region. Yeah, this thing is looking like it's probably going to break to the upside. So I'm actually going to put my stops just above the wick. And then just let this thing ride, see if we actually get a cleaner rejection. All right, any questions about China, Russia, Iran, trade war, tariffs? You said massive congratulations on what? I'm with Kevin O'Leary, 400% tariffs on China. Look, Kevin is cool and all, but like, I don't know what obviously these policies, yeah, stop loss just got hit. It's all good. Yeah, some of these policies are obviously going to be beneficial, but I think Kevin O'Leary should worry more about Canada not getting fucking steamrolled and then bought by the US before he comments on what China should or shouldn't do. I don't know what the host of a 20-year-long TV show where a guy pretends to be a venture capitalist has anything to fucking say about China. Like, clearly he has businesses there, but so does any other billionaire in the country. That's not a TV gimmick. I know some people could say that about Trump. Trump was a TV gimmick. Trump surpassed that. The guy went from something like a Shark Tank to the most powerful man in the world, literally a historic figure in the likes of Washington and Lincoln. I want to see Kevin O'Leary do that. I want to see Mark Cuban do something besides own the Mavericks. Like, I want to do some. I want to see these guys like they just all are jealous of Trump because they just don't have that it. They don't have that it factor. They know that they're just going to be reality TV stars or whatever the fuck they're doing over there with that bullshit show. And I used to like that show until I found out it was all fake. I had a couple friends get on that show. Fake. It's all fabricated. So I'm sitting here like, tell Kevin O'Leary to mind his fucking business and worry about Canada. And my beef with Kevin O'Leary stems from the crypto days where we were really just kind of pushing for crypto adoption. This is like really early days when Pompliano was really kind of the face of Bitcoin. And you know, Kevin O'Leary basically calling Bitcoin trash and saying crypto was a scam, and it was just like a bunch of he was the most. He wasn't like Jamie Dimon where he was like, oh, that's just fluff money. No, he went in every day on CNBC and all these things. And then a year later, he comes out with his own company, not BlockFi, WonderFi or whatever the fuck it is. But that type of dishonesty and that type of just, brother, you have to stand on business. I don't give a fuck what y'all believe in. If you guys are listening to this, as a Chartaddicts listener, I want you guys to understand one thing. I don't give a fuck what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what political, what your sexual orientation is. I don't give a fuck. If you have principles, stand on business. This world is not split between right or left, the red and blue. It's split between people who have principles and people who just go off of whatever they feel, kind of like spontaneous in the moment. right? Kevin O'Leary, today's the day I'm going to switch over to be crypto. I'm going to be harsh on China. And he gets a couple business deals in China. Then the next day he just turns his back on that. If you have principles, there's no amount of money that somebody can pay you to just turn your fucking back on everything you believe in like that. And so Kevin O'Leary behaves more like a politician than a businessman. And he's basically just a fucking gimmick. So that's what I got to say about Kevin O'Leary. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else? Make sure you guys drop a like on this stream. I appreciate you guys stopping by the Chart Addicts live stream. Just a reminder, the NASDAQ Masterclass is tonight. Yes, we've been talking about it all month. You can still secure your spot. If you guys are a previous member or have taken the class before, you get a 60%, 40% discount, depending on which. Check your email for the promo code. And if you guys are a new student, make sure to reach out to us see if we have any promotions going on before tonight. Tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We have the orientation day. And I kind of just want to go through just real quick what the class entails, just so you guys can make a good choice here before you click that link. So day 0 is orientation. You guys are going to get to meet me and get a full review or full overview of the program. We're going to set some expectations, the goals, and the schedule. And we're going to learn how to maximize your results for the class so you can get the most out of it. You'll hear from some of our former students who have been massively successful, and they'll be able to share with you. Oh, man. I was about 40 points. Damn. I was about 40 points in profits. I was out here yapping. But I trust. In the 88.6, I trust. This is the strategy we'll be teaching in the class tonight. Okay, let's take a look at day 2 real quick. Day 2, or day 1, excuse me, that'll be tomorrow. The rules, the strategy, and the trading schedule required to trade this system that we teach. Learn a complete system overview, build the daily trading routine so you guys can figure out which pockets of time the market reacts the best, which pockets of time have the highest volume, and you can sort of track on that. And you can set up, we're going to go through the rules that you're going to have to set up for yourself to stay disciplined. Number 2 is where we do a real deep dive into the technicals and we go through live models, live examples of the strategy in motion. We understand how to break down the live charts, how to spot high probability setups in real time. And we're going to practice with our good partners FX Replay and show you guys examples of me executing in real time. Execution strategies and risk management is day 3. So the different ways to use the strategy, whether you're high risk, low risk guy, whether you're or gal, you have a higher tolerance for risk or lower tolerance for risk, your schedule, busy versus more free, or your personality, whether you're an aggressive or more conservative. All right, so we got this nice little rejection here. I'm going to close off some partials, kind of make up for the couple of the losses that I took on that last try. So now I have both contracts protected in stop profit, and now we just let this thing run and do its thing. I'm looking for that real drop now. All right, this is where the real money gets made. All right, and then day 4, final review and Q&A. We're not just going to let you guys finish the class and just send you out there to the wolves. We'll do a final review, let you guys ask full questions back and forth, the whole 9. And then we're going to get some feedback. So as soon as you graduate, you actually get a one-on-one coaching call with myself or one of our incredible coaches. And we basically make sure you have a trading plan. We make sure that you have all the right, I want to talk to you and see where your head is at regarding trading. Because if you have unrealistic expectations or you're just going to treat this like a gambling thing, it's not going to work. We want to make sure that we're not feeding lambs to slaughter. We're going to make sure that you are ready to go before we send you out there into the world. Along with graduating the class, you also get 1 month free VIP group access inside of our Discord chat to get access to these live trading calls that we do every morning, to get access to the market outlooks that we do every night, to cover what happened during the day and some trades for the next day. And you get access to exclusive content as well as access to every masterclass every month. As long as you're a member, as long as your membership is active, you get access to these masterclasses for free. And so make sure you guys register for the masterclass as soon as possible. You have until the end of today, and the class starts tonight. You got it? All right, everybody. Looking forward to seeing you guys out there tonight. Thank you guys for stopping by. If you learned something, leave a comment in the comments section. Members, I'm going to stay on here for just a little bit so I can flex this win. Or I'm going to just look like an idiot. It doesn't matter. That's the beauty of it. All right, or I'll be wrong. Either way, we're here having fun, aren't we? And that's all that matters. That's the most important. Wait, what just happened? Is the stream still active? Don't do me dirty like this. Okay, no, we're good. Oh, good stuff. All right, let me see if you guys have questions. Just drop them in the comment section. Drop the questions in the comment section if you have them, and I'll go through those right now. Let's see what you guys got. Oh, break even hit on one of the contracts. The other one's safe. They know what they're doing. They know where the obvious liquidity spots are. Trying to cheat the game over here. All right, let's see if we actually get any good questions today. See if we get some good questions today. No questions? We're good? Anybody want to talk about anything else? Is there anything on you guys' mind? I saw I mean, I'll just shoot the shit here, but I saw a podcast between Douglas Murray and Dave Smith on Joe Rogan yesterday. Now, I used to really like Douglas Murray, right? The Death of Europe, great book. Guy's always been fucking based, but that podcast yesterday, we basically just saw the downfall of Douglas Murray. That was fucking crazy. Because I'm seeing Sam Harris being on the same wave. Just like these people that I used to respect as, what they would call themselves intellectuals, quote unquote. And they're just bro, it was so hard to listen to the first hour of Douglas just going back and forth and back and forth. Anybody see that or no? Do I trade S&P? No, I stopped trading S&P back in 2022. I traded it in. I put the beers down, picked up some liquor, my son. Picked up NASDAQ. S&P follows clear structure, just not as volatile as the NASDAQ. And honestly, the NASDAQ, like I have such a good understanding of the fundamentals at this point of what makes it move, that at least for the next 5 to 10 years, while my thesis plays out, I think I have a really, really good finger on the pulse of what makes NASDAQ move. It's all down to liquidity. All right, it's all down to credit and capital. So if the credit markets and the capital markets are healthy and there's money flowing, so like we saw in quantitative easing where there's money printing happening, that money typically ends up in risk assets. We've seen asset inflation be a direct reaction to money printing and to other, like money producing activities or policies, right? Yeah. So with NASDAQ, for example, you're really looking at the top 8 or 9 stocks that move the market, what we consider the Mag 7 or the Mag 8. Those names are mostly reacting to the fact that these guys are like, you're a behemoth of a company, but you're still being expected to grow month over month or quarter over quarter or year over year, which is almost impossible to do. And so what they do is they end up having to like jib their numbers by setting low expectations and then beating those expectations in their sales numbers or corporate earnings. Or when they take out debt, they purchase back their own stock and kind of boost the price. And there's all these manipulative tactics that companies can use to buy back stock instead of using this money to invest in research and development or in growth or paying back the investors, et cetera. So long story short, NASDAQ, pretty clear. The technology sector is the most, quickly emerging and the most aggressively opportunistic or opportunity-filled sector that the S&P has, or like just all of America has right now. The technology sector is what drove America's dominance between 2000 and 2025 today. And if we get ahead of the AI revolution, then we could do this again. And I do think that companies like Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Tesla, Netflix, like some of the largest companies in the world, Uber, some of these companies are going to continue to dominate and evolve in the AI space, which is going to make them way more dominant. On top of that, the companies that Like some of those companies might not exist, but new technology companies will come and replace them. So long story short, the technology sector in America has such a bright future. It is a very predictable place to sort of look at because you have biomedical technology, you have AI, you have data and security, and you have like weapons manufacturing that has all these technologies in it. So there's very clear line here between where all the money is going. And if you guys really want to get rich, like you guys want to become billionaires or you're 100 millionaires, you guys want to start a company and sell it to Microsoft and like, Activision sold for like $65 billion, the gaming company. They sold to Microsoft, I believe, one of the largest tech acquisitions ever. This was 2 years ago during the height of the M&A. Actually, no, 3 years ago during the height of the M&A era before Lena Khan fucked up everything at the CFTC. Now, look, if you want to make money, you can go, there's gaming. Think about gaming, think about AI, think about technology, think about security, think about hardware, think about all the different, you don't chase gold. It's kind of like it's not financial advice, but during the gold rush, there was a lot of people chasing gold, and then there was people selling shovels. And there was people selling, tour guides to show you around the shit. Because whether you find a piece of gold or not, you're going to buy this pickaxe. Okay, whether you find gold or not, you're going to buy these Levi's jeans. You're going to buy this, this homesteading guide or whatever the fuck I'm going to sell you. But that you can only sell once. And so then you have to ask yourself, who is making real money in the gold? Is, let's say, people reporting on it, people cleaning the gold, people who are selling the gold in the stores. That they're making money regardless, all the way through. Okay, so in this next AI revolution, this technology revolution, instead of trying to chase gold, sell shovels, et cetera, find your in. There's going to be more money sloshing around than I think we even know exist in the system. And I'm very excited to see that. I just hope you guys have your head on your shoulders and take this serious because it's a once in a lifetime chance when your kids and your grandkids ask you, hey, Papa, what were you doing during the AI revolution? Right? Kind of like you might look at some of your parents and be like, well, you could have put $10 into Microsoft or $100 into Microsoft and we'd be millionaires today. Like, what were you doing back then? Did you not like hear about it? Like, what was the deal? And everyone would be like, well, I mean, we didn't hear about it. I was too busy working. No one was talking about it. I didn't know. You can't use the I didn't know excuse to your kids. So what are you going to tell them? Well, I was just too lazy. I had my dick in my hand. I was on the couch. That's why I let people like Roy take, get all the success, create all these beautiful solutions for the world and get financially compensated for the value provided. Me? No, I wanted to watch fucking Game of Thrones. I mean, of course I can't be sitting there reading about Microsoft and shit. Like I can't put where am I going to get them? I had no money to invest, right? I got to spend this $100 at the bar this weekend with my boys and then not get laid, not bring home a girl, just wasted that money. So you got choices. We got a very, very small opportunity here to take advantage of a historical shift in financial markets. And you're either going to be on the winning side or not. You're either going to be food or you're either be crew or cargo. You're either going to be, it's Maldives or McDonald's, people. These are the options we got. Okay. If you watch this on YouTube, I appreciate you guys' audience. Please make sure to drop a like so YouTube stops hiding this. I know I curse a lot, and I know I say some salacious things. And I know that I've roasted some of the people you're not supposed to talk about. But I'm stating on business. I'm going to speak my mind however the fuck I feel and I see fit. If you guys appreciate that, then at least just drop a like and a comment so that YouTube knows it's like, yeah, this guy's obviously we can read the AI is reading the transcript and seeing all the salacious things I'm saying, but the engagement is there and people appreciate the honesty, and that's something that the algorithm respects the most. Real people voting with their attention. All right. I appreciate you guys for voting with yours. Make sure to check out the masterclass. It is tonight. You got a couple more hours. Head on over to the Chartaddicts FX website, link in the description below. And if you guys are trading, you guys want access to a funded account or anything like that, check out the Chartaddicts promo code in the description for Apex. Click that link, use the promo code Chartaddicts, get 80% off. Take it easy, everybody. Happy and safe trading. Peace. All right, CA members, good to see you guys. Masterclass tonight. We're rocking and rolling. All right, I'm in these